really proud of the way our team played the second half, and especially, in that fourth quarter. I thought that we learned a lot from this experience. To say that I'm surprised with the way it played out, I'm not. We played a lot of young guys on the road, conference game, first time playing with fans in a long time. Quarterback who hadn't thrown a college pass before. But the way we rallied and played, especially in that second half, we had a lot to build on here, and very excited coming out of that locker room.
Open them up right here, Austin.
Brian, you said you're not surprised. When you look at that first half, was it feeling out? Was it trying to get your feet back in football? How would you describe what was happening there?
Yeah, no, I thought that we came out on offense, that one drive, hit that big, that big run, which was great, and jump up early, and then, Noah gets that field goal, which, obviously you want 3 points. I mean, you want a touchdown, but we get 3 points. And then, it's hard when the time of possession goes the other way with Minnesota. I mean, they do a great job. PJ does a really good job, and they play complementary football. And there was a point there in the second quarter where we just couldn't seem to get the ball back, couldn't get off the field on defense, and so there was some new guys in there feeling it out, and sometimes runs, instead of going for 1 or 2, they went for 3 or 4, and they stayed on schedule, hit some passes. And then it took a little while, I think, for us to get in a rhythm on offense with CJ. But that's his first game ever. I mean, that was his first pass, it was the first play of the game, ever. So there's a lot going on there, and so when you go into situations like that, that maybe a little bit murky early on, and that's what happened.
Right next door, Steve.
Yeah, Coach, I want to ask you about CJ. He admitted in here a minute ago that he didn't feel like he was locked in at all in the first half. He was kind of struggling, getting his bearings. But it seemed like whatever you guys said to him at halftime, teammates settled him down, and second half made some big plays.
Yeah, well, you don't just walk out at Ohio State at quarterback and it just, you go out there and throw 3 or 4 touchdown passes and call it a day in this conference. Minnesota's a very good team. PJ does an excellent job. That's a very well coached, hard playing team. And going on the road is not easy in this conference to get wins. And so it doesn't just happen. And, I think for him, there was a lot of things he was doing for the first time. And when that happens, it takes some time. Now, you got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, there were a couple times where things weren't really going well. He missed some passes, but he fought through it. And he and I had the conversation early on that we're going to keep swinging no matter what happens. And we're not going to play it close to the vest. That's not the way we do it here. And he responded. But I think really it was the guys around him. I think when you look at the defensive score that we got, that was huge. But then the guys up front, Chris, Garrett, I mean, those were big plays. And then obviously the play with Trey down on that third down was big.
Over here to the left, Bill.
Yeah, the defense, as you alluded to, first of all, you played a lot of guys. Was that the intention to play that many guys, and how would you kind of assess the performance?
Yeah, I got to look at the film and see. I mean, they ran the ball really well and controlled the game a little bit. So we'll look at it. But like you said, there's a lot of guys who played a lot of football. So we have an opportunity now. We recruited a lot of young players, and we lost those 4 linebackers. And because of that, and you can see that we played, we matched some personnel a little bit differently this game, and now we're going to have to go back and assess and really get a feel for that, because when you're going in scrimmages and practice, you get a good feel for things, but you don't really know until you get into a game. And I think it's going to sort itself out a little bit, but we do like playing depth, and guys who deserve to play are going to.
Over here to the right, Adam.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned keep swinging. For a young quarterback, what does that approach do, especially when you obviously have a lot of guys who can help him out and extend the field the way you do?
Yeah, I mean, I told him early on, there's no expectations going in. You might throw 4 interceptions, you might throw 4 touchdowns. I don't know what's going to happen. Again, you don't just, I know everyone thinks you just walk out there and you're going to, throw for 300 yards and a bunch of touchdowns. It doesn't just work that way. There's a lot of things for a young quarterback to process who has never played. I wish last year that we had those 7 games that we didn't play, where he had played 150 to 200 snaps and thrown the ball. He didn't have any of that, not one snap. I shouldn't say not one snap. He had a few snaps, but not one pass. Just a couple plays here and there. So usually this is a very unique situation for someone who has really 0 experience to go into a conference game on the road like this against a good team. I mean, this is a team who was top 10 in the country before last year. So, but yeah, very, very impressed with the way he just kept swinging.
Right behind him, Bill.
Ryan, how close was Seven Banks being able to play, and do you think he and Cam Brown could both play next week?
Yeah, I hope so. You know, we had Seven ready, kind of an emergency role, and you know, we're looking forward to getting those guys healthy to play next week.
Right behind him, Nathan.
Just go with how many guys are playing on defense. Like, I don't know. Do you guys not know yet who your best guys are there? Like, are you still trying to? I know you're not trying guys out because you're playing a game against a conference opponent, but are you still trying to figure out who the guys are you can rely upon on the defensive side?
No, it's close. We have a lot of depth, and so we're playing a lot of depth right now. You know, and maybe it sorts out a little bit differently as we watch the film. And, guys, you know, solidify some spots, but you know, until then, you know, it was really close in a lot of positions, and you know, we'll have to look at it and see if maybe we need to have a little more continuity in certain positions. But you know, when it was that close, you know, guys deserve to play, then we're going to play, you know, depth, and I think that's going to serve us well, you know, certainly down the road. I think, you know, when you start with maybe a non-conference game, and you know, you can get some guys into the game in the second half, it's a little different when you start with a conference game. And we knew that coming in. The whole goal here was to go 1-0, and now the next goal is to go 2-0, and then we come up for air and figure out what's next, because it was a one-game season here, and we didn't care what the score was. And it's going to be the same thing next week, and then we'll kind of come up for air and figure it all out.
Right behind him, Nathan.
How long you expect to be without Harry Miller, and how did you feel like Luke did, especially I guess considering the circumstances and the conditions, and maybe not having that much time, I guess, to work with?
I thought he did an excellent job, you know, stepping in a big way. There's another young guy that has very, very little experience, handled the weather, handled the calls, handled the environment, the fans, and you know, we'll see how he grades out, but I thought he handled everything really, really well.
Where we have to play, do you know what the situation is?
That's more day-to-day right now.
Over here, Rob Aller.
Ryan, you talked about bounce back after the interception. You never know where it's gonna go with a
Right.
guy. How happy are you the way he responded, and was part of that you talking to him?
Yeah, I mean, I told him going in that something like this was going to happen, and you got to deal with it before you get into that environment, because if you're trying to figure that out and figure out your feelings and your emotions in the game, it's not good. So, you know, one of the things that we talked about going in was that whatever those expectations are, like, just throw them out the window, and we're going to have to be resilient. And I was impressed with it. You know, it wasn't a great read, and it wasn't a great throw.
We'll go all the way to the back. Just
Did you-
gonna
did-
do two more questions
Just-
with Coach.
Yeah, just the one thing I just wanted to say though, you know, in that situation for him, you know, you can say as many things as you want in practice, and you can go against the scout team, but until that actually happens, and you actually you'll see the consequence for what you do, that's when you learn. And that was a learning experience.
Way in the back. Clay.
Ryan, what's the impact of a defensive touchdown tonight, Harrison and Garrett double team?
I thought that was probably the difference in the game, and then some of the explosive plays on offense, certainly. But that, anytime you get a defensive score, whether it's a block punt or something like that, that flips the scoreboard, it really is a huge game changer.
How'd the sideline react? I mean, could you tell
Yeah, I thought, again, our sideline, I thought the energy in that, especially in that, you know, third to fourth quarter there, was as good as I've been around. It was fun.
Okay.